ESPN, good morning, and so thrilled to have you here with us. And here is our Friday team. We are ready to go, coming off of an interesting, if not scintillating, game last night. Bobby and Sanchez and Vilma, and let's roll the highlights of a night last night that was delayed in Carolina. Panthers and Bucks, and Cam Newton entering the game 0 for his last 7, and he'd have to wait a while to get it going. The start delayed by what?
The foot's got nothing to do with it, okay?
Would you have liked the ball in that final?
Of course. Of course, but like I said, you're not about to sit up here and have me point and say what I would have called different or me personally, I accept full responsibility in making sure that offensively I do my part and I uphold my end of the bargain. That's the only thing I can say right now. And, I'm shameful to say it that way, and it came down to that, not being able to put up points. But, hey, at the end of the day, it's the National Football League. Some games you lights out and you can't miss, and some games, you miss. So at this particular point in time, it's up to us offensively to do better. Because our team is giving us opportunities.
And that team is in trouble right now, 0-2 with back-to-back home losses. And if you consider Cam not getting the ball on 4th and short, in his career, Cam Newton has averaged more than 3.5 yards per rush when a yard or closer to the first down, with 15 rushing touchdowns. And so let's get right to that. There are other things to unpack from this game, but it does come down to one play. John Vilma, what did you make of the play call at the end of the game?
It says it all about how the Panthers felt about Cam Newton throughout that game. You watch the game, and he progressively got worse and worse. The body language wasn't there. The accuracy wasn't there. I don't know about his foot, but I do know that they called the play and said, we'd much rather have Christian McCaffrey run this ball and give us a chance to win as opposed to Cam Newton.
Listen, I agree with what you're saying. The only thing I'm going to interject with is he orchestrates his great drive at the end of the game. He's got him in a position to win. I don't care what happens. You got to score on that play, because as a quarterback, whatever we got to do to score, but it better work. If you're going to motion me out, if we're going to run Wildcat, it better work. And it's the counter to Philly special without the flip and the throw to Nick Foles. That's the exact play it was, and they run it. So if you're going to do it, if you're going to get tricky, it better work. That's all I'm saying as a quarterback.
Coaches have a tendency to outsmart themselves sometimes. And when you look at the Carolina roster, there's one guy on that roster that's 6'5", 255 pounds plus, who's fast and physical and who is a runner. And I would rather take my chances with him than with anybody else. Shortest distance between 2 points, straight line. We're taking Cam, we're going straight downhill. Maybe that's why he doesn't run as well as he used to, because of all the hits. But I would have to roll with that if I'm.
Yeah, but Bobby, we're thinking about Cam Newton 2 years ago, 3 years ago, the former NFL MVP. Right. That's who we're thinking of when we talk about 6'6", 250 pounds. That's not who was there yesterday. This was a beat-up Cam Newton that was playing yesterday. You saw it in his throws. You saw it in his haste to throw the ball. He didn't want any part of running it, and that's why they called the play they did.
Andrew Luck just retired. He came out the year after Cam Newton. Cam Newton came out the year before him. He's rushed the ball 1,000 times in his career, including the playoffs. He's beat up.
I get it. And that may speak in a larger sense to the way Cam Newton played last night and the way he looks. It does not necessarily mean you can't let him have the ball on a 4th and 1 down by the goal line at the end of the game. Christian McCaffrey is now that team's best player. Right. But he's not any bigger than I am. So if I need a yard on a 4th down with my game on the line, I am letting Cam Newton smash that ball up the middle or do something with it in his hands.
Cam has been the center of the Carolina offensive universe since he got there. He is the most unique player in the NFL. His size, his speed, his skill combo have allowed him to do things and to build this offense around him in a way you can't any other player. And if those skills have begun to diminish, I'm beginning to wonder where Carolina goes from here offensively.
I'm with you. There are two separate conversations to be had. We'll have the other one later, which is, are the best days of Cam Newton's career now behind him? Or at least does he have to come up with does he have to reinvent himself at this stage of his career? But as far as that 4th down play last night, if it's me, and this is a second guess, but it is what it is, I'm letting my quarterback try and win me that game in that situation.
Greeny, the best player you mentioned is Christian McCaffrey.
Right.
It's just a little cute.
You give the ball to your best player.
Okay, you can let Cam give him the ball then. Cam Newton can give the ball to Christian McCaffrey. You don't have to take Cam Newton out of the play.
Okay.
The second he's running away, he's out of the play, right? He's no longer involved in the play. I'm not sure I take that guy out of the play with my game on the line. Meanwhile, I think I'm just trying to avoid getting to our next subject. Here we go. It has been a rough start to the season for the New York Jets. It began with an opening week disaster, blowing a 16-0 second-half lead and losing a divisional game at home against the Bills. In that game, a kicker named Vedvik missed an extra point and a field goal. He was then waived. They signed Sam Ficken, who was their fourth kicker since the start of training camp. Also in that game, the Jets suffering critical injuries on both sides of the ball. C.J. Mosley, who had been their best player with a groin injury, rookie Quinnen Williams, the third pick in the draft, hurt his ankle in that game. On offense, starting wide receiver Quincy Enunwa suffered his annual out-for-the-year injury. He's got a neck. And star running back Le'Veon Bell needed an MRI for a sore shoulder. And then, as we've of course heard yesterday, Sam Darnold will be sidelined indefinitely after being diagnosed with mononucleosis. It is the kissing disease, and with it, the Jets probably kiss their season goodbye. Here are the headlines in New York, typically understated. Gang spleen, that of course a reference to the mono. It is a disaster of biblical proportion for the Jets, whose head coach Adam Gase acknowledges Darnold is likely to miss several weeks.
We had a meeting this morning. I told him this morning in a team meeting. Talked about how our next man philosophy does not waver. It's about everybody doing their job. The reaction I got and the way that guys looked was, let's go. And there's confidence there.
If I'm not mistaken, mono is like a month-long thing where it can last several weeks because like something swells in the body.
I'm aware.
So is this going to be more than just a 1 week thing then?
It looks like it. Good thing we got the early bye week.
Well, I mean, when you're finding solace in the early bye week, you know things have gotten about as bad as they can get. He's right. They have an early bye. It comes between road games at the New England and then the Eagles. In fact, over the next 6 games, whether Darnold was on the field or not, FPI would suggest the Jets are only favored to win Monday night's game against the Browns. Any of you who follow the Jets know their early season schedule was brutal, regardless of the circumstances with their quarterback, which was why the loss to Buffalo was so devastating to begin with. And now they're going to have to go it without their quarterback. Here's the bad news, okay? It's worse than you think. Here's where it gets really bad because, Mark, you were telling me this morning, not only does it mean in the micro picture, in the small picture, that he'll miss a couple of games and they're less likely to win them, but in the big picture, for a quarterback's development at this stage, it's even worse.
The second year is so important for a quarterback to develop, and I'm not talking about just reps in practice. I'm talking about team interaction. It's not like he's in a walking boot and he can go do upper body workouts. He can go to walkthroughs. He can, throw the ball a little bit. You can't do anything. So he's missing so much valuable time, and it just sends a crappy message to the team. And it's no fault of Sam's. It's a crappy circumstance. But now what? I mean, they're just in a really tough spot.
You're looking at weeks, Bobby. Again, everyone this morning, in an effort to try and cheer me up, was making me feel much, much worse. Because you were making the point, Bob, that even when he is theoretically ready to come back, he won't be ready to come back.
Yeah, mono is something it's going to wear you down. This is 4 weeks. Let's say he's able to come back at that point and be around the team. Who's to say that he doesn't go out there and practice? He gets fatigued. They may have to monitor his reps. Like this, I think, is going to turn out to be really a lost season for Sam Darnold. And it was a guy last season who finished the year with so much momentum, so much promise. Right. And now you're going to look at this season and think, week 12, week 13, that may be when you get to see him at full strength again. And where are they going to be by that point, Green?
Well, I mean, I don't know where they're going to be.
Where are you going to be?
I'm not going to be anywhere good. Take me instead. Why does this always happen to the Jets quarterback? John, make me feel better. Is there anything you can say that'll make me feel better?
There's always next year.
I'm 52 years old. There's been next year every single year. It never gets better.
What more do you want me to tell you, Green? There's always next year.
It is an epic disaster, right?
It is a disaster. But
I hate to even ask you this question.
Okay.
We just looked at the schedule. If they lose to Cleveland Monday night, and they may not. Look, I know Trevor Siemian better than anybody knows Trevor Siemian, quarterback Northwestern.
He
has a chance to win the game.
Here's some good news. Here's some good news.
Yes.
Even if they had Sam Darnold, they still were going to go 0-6.
Whoa.
That's good news?
Well, now you don't have to worry about Sam Darnold being there. Now you don't have to worry about that. Just look at who they were lining up against. You don't know. They had Patriots twice.
They let one slip
Cowboys.
early.
Are you kidding me?
Get him a hazmat suit. Get him in meetings. Keep him developing.
You have the same chance of winning all those games with or without Darnold. So that makes you feel good. There you go.
John, we don't know each other all that well, but I really question your idea of what is good news. Okay, I don't think telling me they were going to be 0-6 anyway necessarily constitutes good news. One way or another, the Jets might face a fascinating and horrible decision coming up. We'll get to that as we go. But mercifully, we'll move on to our next story of the morning, and that is this guy. If you need another reason to tune into this game on Monday night, the Jets and the Browns, Odell Beckham has got you taken care of. He is now taking aim at the Jets defensive coordinator, Greg Williams, who was in that role for the Browns the last few years. Beckham calls him dirty and says Williams' dirty tactics almost derailed his career.
The only thing I'm buying is, probably just got to watch out for the cheap shots and the dirty hits and all the things that he likes to teach. I mean, if I was a coach, I would never teach what he teaches, but that's just him and what he does. So, I had players on this team telling me that that's what he was telling them to do, take me out of the game, and it's preseason. So you just know who he is.
All right, so he's saying it. That's one thing. Is there truth to it is another. John Vilma, you played for Greg Williams in New Orleans, famously and somewhat infamously, I suppose.
Yeah.
Is it true? Is what Odell Beckham is saying true?
There is no truth to it. I was with Greg Williams for 3 years, one of the best defensive coordinators I had, and he teaches physicality. He teaches aggression. And by the way, the hit on Odell Beckham that had him injured was a legal hit. We talk about going low because if a player can't run, he can't score. So when you take those shots, what are considered cheap shots by offensive players sometimes, it's really about going low and taking the legs out. Because to be quite honest, the athlete in this day and age is too big, too fast to sit there as a corner, 5'10", and go up against a 6'2" Julio Jones or an Odell Beckham. You go and take their legs out, and that's not illegal in any way. Now we do it aggressively, and Greg Williams teaches to do that aggressively and be aggressive about it, but it's not illegal in any way.
Greg Williams' name will always be attached to what happened with Bountygate. Many of us will always just immediately think of him when we think of that, so we feel like there's some semblance of truth to what Odell is saying.
And that's right where I was going. It's very convenient for him to put this out here because now he just alerted the NFL. Greg Williams, I never thought he'd ever coach again. I thought they would have blacklisted him and not let him back. He's on the other sideline. And for him to come out and say this is going to put the NFL's ears up. They're going to address it with the officials before the game. And so now if there's any questionable calls, any targeting stuff, any stuff to the head, they're always now going to err on the side of caution for the offensive guy, maybe even more than they would have before.
No, I agree with that. But we played against Vilma's Saints and Greg Williams Saints in 2009. That was the sorest I've ever been on a Monday. But nothing was illegal. They just smacked us. It felt like you got hit by a Mack truck. And that's what he wants. If I'm a defensive coordinator, that's what I'm coaching. I don't think anything's illegal.
Well, there's playing to the echo of the whistle and all of that kind of thing. Right. The Odell, I understand. Odell, I'm not here to speak for Odell, obviously, but if I were, I think he might say to you, I understand everything you're saying about going low, but that's a preseason game in which the guy got hurt. Is all bets not off in a preseason game?
No, not at all. On the contrary, you're probably playing harder. You have players that are literally
trying to make the roster,
for their jobs and for the roster. And so to say a preseason game, you shouldn't go low, that's not the case. Like offensive players, I understand you need your legs and your ankles for your livelihood, but that is not how we're being taught.
What should not be overlooked in this also is that Odell is on the Browns talking about Greg Williams, who's now with the Jets. But Greg Williams was the defensive coordinator of the Browns last year.
Right.
So a lot of his current defensive teammates played under Greg Williams a year ago. So one of two things I could see happening. Either some of them might be put off by him saying this if they like him, or maybe they're the ones who said this to him.
They may be the ones that said this to him. I don't know. But I do know that if they did say it, they should also mention that Greg Williams preached every time, never hurt the team. So you don't get penalties. You don't get the offsides. You don't get the unsportsmanlike roughing the kicker, unsportsmanlike conduct, targeting. Those are things that hurt the team. That's what he preached as well.
All right, we'll see. So that's a lot of drama and intrigue surrounding a Monday night game that unfortunately will be without one of the star quarterbacks. Then there's the man who has been at the center of so much of the news this week, and that is Antonio Brown, who will be practicing with the Patriots again today, and we'll take you live there later this morning. Sources tell our Jeremy Fowler the Patriots and Raiders were unaware of the civil lawsuit against Brown before it was filed because lawyers for Brown and his accuser were having confidential discussions. Meanwhile, Brown spoke out on Instagram last night.
The work don't stop, No matter what they say, no matter what they hate, somebody still got to go to work. The devil gonna try to bring you down when you get closer to your goals. The key is, don't let him. Now I was thinking about it. All the basketball players in the world, all the soccer players in the world, they get love and embrace. Maybe we need a football USA team so the world can love us. Because all we get is hate.
You may notice he's at the TB12 facility there, which Tom Brady 12, it's his, and it's right near their practice facility and stadium. So many things that jump to my mind here. First and foremost, do you feel like posting that video before he has played a game for the Patriots sort of feels very unlike the Patriot way? What we usually expect a player to come in there, we think, well, will they sort of conform to the Bill Belichick way of doing things? Does this feel contrary to that?
It does feel contrary to that. At the same time, I don't think he was referencing playing on the field. He's referencing everyone, media, us included, having an opinion about should he play or should he not play for the alleged rape allegation. We don't have a say in that. And if he's not to play, let the NFL conduct their investigation and then put him on the exempt list. And if not, let's shut up about it. Let him play. That's what he should do.
There are a lot of different parts of this story to take a look at, and we will as the morning goes on. But very quickly, let's just live in a world where he does play on Sunday.
Right.
He has only been there for 5 days. He has a Hall of Fame quarterback, and he himself is an all-time great player. How much can realistically be expected of him in this first game? Again, just 5 days with the program.
After that Saints game I was referencing earlier, we get Braylon Edwards week 5. And all we told him to do in those first couple games is you're going to run deep, you're going to run a deep post, basically run 10 to 15 yards and go hit your head on the goal post, right? And I'll go through the read, I'll remind you of the route. And Rex would tell us that. He goes, hey guys, Sunday's a test, but it's a group test. It's open book. If somebody doesn't know what to do, tell them. There's no secrets on Sunday.
So when you're calling
Brady's
a play,
going to tell him.
Talk me through this, because you're going to go into a huddle. He's going to call a play using a whole bunch of words that Antonio Brown have no way of knowing what they are now. So then you'll talk to him separately?
100%. At least 1 word, 2 words. Hey, AB, you got the slant on this. Hey, AB, you're shallow on this. Don't forget, you got the deep go. You got the comeback. Whatever it is, Brady's going to be able to do that. If I could do that in my rookie year, I guarantee you Tom Brady can.
They're playing a really bad team, obviously, in the Dolphins. How much can be realistically expected if he is playing from Brown on Sunday?
How much can be expected? If you look, when Josh Gordon came in last year, they threw him in there and they were trying to get him the ball early and often. Like, Bill Belichick didn't trade for him, or didn't sign him rather, just to sit him. And if he's going to go out and let him be on the field, they're going to put him in there. They're going to try to get him the ball. Bill doesn't care that it's the Dolphins. Now, granted, it's one of his former coaches down there, but they're going to try to move the football and score some points.
Easy touches, screens, little stuff like that, shallow routes, slants, easy stuff.
What do you think, John?
We're still not talking about he's one of the best man-to-man wide receivers in the game.
No doubt.
Routes, crisp. He separates every time. He has speed down the field. That you don't have to run a play for that. Tell him, hey, go do that option route, and we'll get you the ball.
There are implications to this, obviously, that are so much larger than football. But if he's on the field, it'll be interesting to see just how much they're able to use him. We are just getting started. Meanwhile, here on Get Up this morning, and as we continue, it is now 8 straight losses for Cam Newton. How concerned should the Panthers be about his future in Carolina? You've got those questions. We have the answers. Plus, Lamar Jackson, what a start.